What's up, guys? Rick from DFS On Demand here with the one and done preview for the US Open. That's right, it's that time of year, the third major of the year this season. But before we look ahead at the US Open, we have to recap the Canadian Open, in which Rory just stomped the field. But in terms of the one and done, Rory, not even close to one of the more popular picks. In fact, only 34 of the players in this 3,000 plus pool rostered Rory. Now, this kind of goes back to a little bit of something where I think I mentioned it earlier in the week, but I've definitely mentioned it a handful of times through the season, where all these big name players, Rory, DJ, Brooks, they all get used in majors. And if you can find a spot to use one of these studs where you and 30 others have him, you're in a great spot. Even if the prize pool is not nearly as large as the $2 million you might get for winning the Players' Championship, the 1.2 or whatever he won this week is going to do just fine. So keep that in mind when you do a little bit of game theory. But the most popular picks from the Canadian Open: Webb Simpson, Henrik Stenson, those two very close, around 350 picks apiece. Scott Piercy with 295, Matt Kuchar with 244, and Bubba with 163. If you had one of those top guys, you either did well, I guess you either did well or you didn't, but you either did really well or you did really poorly. So here's the final leaderboard, and I've got the guys starred here who were the 5 most popular picks. You know, Scott Piercy misses the cut. If you played Scott Piercy, shame on you. He misses the cut. Bubba essentially misses the cut. T63 doesn't earn you much money there. And then if you had Stenson, Kuchar, or Webb Simpson, you earn top 10 money for each of them. Simpson T2, Kuchar T4, who was the 54-hole leader. Would have been nice to capture a win from him in one of our lineups, but falls to T4. And then Stenson was basically top 10 all week. He finishes T8, so you'd have to be happy with that. So who did we play and where do we stand? We were licking our chops in our season long to have Dustin Johnson in this spot for the same reasons of why we would have been so excited to have Rory. And if DJ had won this, we would be saying the same things, right? Which is, go get a stud in one of these smaller field events or weaker field where it's just very top heavy, and then the rest of the field is pretty weak, and not have him with 400 others, have him with 30 others. So we had the right idea. We picked the wrong stud. We had DJ instead of Rory. DJ, I think he finished 20th, $79,000. And in our weekly pick, so this would have been really nice because we almost would have went back-to-back with wins. We've been on a pretty decent stretch here. Our weekly pick, we had Cantlay last week for the 1.6 million. We had Kuchar this week, could not hold on and win this thing. Ends up with 334,000. So basically we've earned $2 million in the last 2 weeks of our total of now over 3.8. Basically, half of our money has come in the last 2 weeks, making that a much more reasonable, and it's not as tough to look at the number anymore. It's respectable is the word I was looking for our season-long pick. So what are we going to do for this week? And I kind of preface all this by saying, if we're at this point, right? We are more than halfway through the season, I believe. This is the third major. I'm probably not going to convince you one way or another on who to play. You've probably saved someone for this spot. But let's talk through this. And I assume it's going to be a stud. I talked a little bit about this on the DFS video, but if you're playing one of these studs, and the studs I'm referring to in this situation are Koepka, DJ, Tiger, Rory, Spieth. There's 2 of them that might struggle with the accuracy that it will require to win at Pebble Beach. The 2 I'm speaking specifically of, Spieth and Tiger. Their off the tee stats have not been nearly as good as the others. Rory's the best in the field, the best on tour. DJ kind of right behind him, but it's going to be tough to roster one of those 2 as a one and done pick. I think there's other tournaments that might set up better if you want to play Spieth, if you want to play Tiger, or when you're ready to do so. I also think there's a ton of great options that I can't play. I've basically rolled through everyone in my season long. So if we go through this, I mean, I've used JT, who I would have loved to have played. I've used Rose, Rom, Xander, DJ, Rory, Bryson, Sergio, Ricky, Tiger, Patrick, Koepka. I mean, these are literally the greatest players on the planet. I did not save anyone in this lineup, and now I'm kind of paying for that. So where am I going to go? Where am I going to go in my season long? I'm going to take a look here at my course key stats, which again, I went much more in depth into in the DFS video, and looked at any stats that really highly correlated with Pebble Beach. The one that stood out to me was par 5 birdie or better. It's rare that stat comes up when we run this model, and it is the number one most important stat here at Pebble. So when I look at that, I say, okay, well, Justin Thomas is a guy that leads the field. Then the next two guys are guys that I've not used yet that I think are really interesting. Adam Scott and Gary Woodland. I narrowed my weekly pick down to one of these two guys. I'm pretty big on Woodland this week. I think that it helps that he's a less than driver guy. He destroys par 5s, but I gave the nod to Adam Scott. So spoiler alert, going to go with Adam Scott in this spot here in my season long. He eats up these par 5s. Had that really great finish, second place finish at the Memorial. He's playing well. He's rounding into form. So I'm going to roster him. Additionally, if we look at the strokes gain tool and you look tee to green in the last 30 days, few guys, actually only one guy hotter than Adam Scott. It's Patrick Cantlay. So the top 5 guys of, strokes gained tee to green are Cantlay, Scott, DJ, Koepka, and McIlroy. That is a heck of a crowd to be considered with. Additionally, Paul Casey kind of intrigues me. If you've not used Paul Casey yet and you want to be the only one using Paul Casey at a place that really fits his skill set, I think this might be the time to do it. So between Adam Scott, Casey, Woodland, that's kind of like the second tier of players. If you're not using a stud, again, if you're using a stud, I probably don't need to convince you one way or another. If you're looking in that second tier of players, those are the 3 I'm going to narrow my focus on. In our season-long lineup, we have Jason Day slotted into this spot, which I think is fine. I'm not super thrilled about it, but I don't think that he's going to be particularly highly owned because there's so many other golfers that you can roster here. So we're going to go with Adam Scott. We're going to go with Jason Day. Who are you going with? Tweet me. It's at DFS On Demand, or leave a comment below. Good luck this week. See ya.